friends, welcome to EduTap. So welcome to this video wherein we are going to have an analysis of economic and social issues section for RBI Grade B 2018. So this is regarding the questions that were asked in phase 2 of RBI Grade B 2018. This video is specific discussion on the ESI section, right? So friends, what are the points for discussion in this particular lecture? So the first thing that we're going to have a look at is a general breakup between the 1-marker and 2-marker questions, right? Then we will move on and have a look at the syllabus of economics and social issues separately, right? Then we will see how many questions have been asked from economics and how many from social issues. Plus, we will also see the corresponding marks, okay? Then we will analyze each section, how many questions are asked from each topic of economics and each topic of social issues, right? At the end, we will move on and see some major insights, okay, and then we will see what is the study technique that we need to follow, right? So friends, here we can have a look at the pattern first. This is a pattern of RBI Grade B Phase 2 exam, right? So you can see here that we are talking about paper 1, economic and social issues. The paper is for 100 marks and the duration that you get is 90 minutes, right? It is an objective type paper. Now friends, let us have a look at the total number of questions and break up of 1-mark and 2-mark questions. So as per the general trends, we can see that the total number of questions are 65, okay, and pertaining to 100 marks. So out of that 65 questions, 30 are going to be 1-marker questions, that is 1 mark for each question, so 30 marks in total. Then the 2-marker questions are going to be 35, okay, each question 2 marks, a total 70 marks. So this is the breakup when it comes to the 1-marker and 2-marker questions and the corresponding marks for each, right? So friends, here just a quick look at the economics syllabus. So when you talk about economics, we can place it under various tabs like growth and development. You have 3 chapters. You have measurement of growth and national income. You have poverty alleviation and employment generation. There is sustainable development and environmental issues. Then economic reforms in India. You have industrial and labor policy. You have monetary and fiscal policy. Very important. You have privatization and role of economic planning. Globalization, under it you have BOP, balance of payments, export-import policy, IMF and World Bank, other international economic institutions, there's WTO and regional economic cooperation, right? Coming to the syllabus of social issues, you have multiculturalism, you have demographic trends, urbanization and migration, gender issues, social justice, positive discrimination in favor of the underprivileged, social movements, Indian political system, there is human development, there is social sectors in India, health and education. So friends, now let us have a look at the breakup between the economic and social issues, okay? So in terms of the number of questions as well as in terms of marks, okay? So where you can see here 2 pie charts here. The first one is for number of questions. So out of a total of 65 questions that we get, okay, you can see that 48 questions are asked from the topic that are included under economics, okay, and out of a total of 65 questions, 17 questions were from social issues, okay. So if you have a look at this pie chart, you can see the priority that you need to give to, or in the paper what has been the trend that economics topics have dominated the paper, okay. Talking about marks friends, so out of a total of 100 marks, okay, you can see that 69 marks were from topics belonging to the economic section and 31 marks is from social issues, right friends? Then moving on to see the breakup between the 1-marker and 2-marker questions between the economic and social issues, okay. So first of all, let us have a look at 1-marker question. So on your left hand side, you can see this graph. So the first thing we know that 1-marker questions, there are 30 in total, okay. So out of those 30 questions, your 27 questions were from economics in 1-markers, okay. So you can say almost all the questions were from economics. 3 questions were asked from social issues when you talk about 1-markers, okay. Moving on to your 2-marker questions. So as we know that the total number of 2-marker questions are 35, okay. So out of those 35 questions, you can see here that 21 questions were from economics. Again, a majority of questions coming from economics, okay, and 14 questions were asked from social issues, right friends? So this is a split up between the economics and social issues topics, right? Now friends, let us have a look at the number of questions that have been asked from each topic of economics. So if you see this graph, the topics that took the lead are monetary policy and fiscal policy. You can see here that 9 2-marker questions are from these two chapters and 4 1-marker questions. Okay, and after that you can see that the topics like industrial and labor policy were important in the examination. Then there is measurement of growth. You can also see that questions from poverty alleviation, employment generation were also asked. Okay, and you had also questions from IMF and World Bank. This is WTO. Then there was a section called miscellaneous, okay, wherein we cannot exactly place it under any of the topics. Okay, so you can see that the number of questions are scattered all over the topics, and each year this priority is going to change. Okay, so we cannot base our or depend upon this particular graph for our preparation. We need to give importance to all the topics, but at least we can understand from where do we need to start. Okay. So friends, here you can have a look at this pyramid wherein you can see that monetary and fiscal policy, it had 22 marks coming out of it. Then you have industrial and labor policy, 13 marks, followed by measurement of growth and national income, 12 marks. Similarly, poverty alleviation and employment generation, 9 marks, miscellaneous 7, privatization and role of economic planning, 2, and the other topics like sustainable development, IMF and World Bank, WTO, regional economic cooperation, 1 mark coming from each of these topics, right? So friends, let me just tell you that this is based on the questions that were asked in the year 2018. What is more important for you to take away from this particular analysis video is the type of questions that are being asked. So in the coming section, we shall see what were the exact questions that were asked in the examination, so you get an idea what are the areas that you need to cover when you talk about a specific topic, right? Now talking about 2017, I've just included this pyramid as well. These were the questions that were asked last year, that is 2017 paper. Okay, so you can have a look at it and you can compare for yourself. Okay, you can see some similar trends, and some topics that were not asked previously were asked in the year 2018. So you can just have a look at it. Okay. Now coming to the number of questions from each topic of social issues. So you can see that a maximum number of questions were from social sectors in India, which is health and education. So there were 9 2-marker questions. Okay, and the other major chunk was from social justice chapter, which had 5 2-marker questions. So you can see that clearly these two topics dominated the paper when it comes to social issues. So coming to the pyramid again, you can see that 18 marks from social sectors, that is health and education, 10 marks from social justice, then 2 marks from urbanization and migration, and human development chapter had 1 mark coming out of it, right? Now this is a pyramid based on the questions asked in 2017. So here you can see that social movement was included, but in 2018 we did not have a single question from this particular chapter. Okay, from demographic trends we had a question in 17, but 18 we did not have. In 17, human development chapter had 5 marks out of it, but in the year 2018 there was only 1 mark. So you can see the level of unpredictability here, friends. Okay, so that is some important takeaways that you need to have from this particular lecture, right? So friends, now we have come to a very important section of this particular lecture, that is topic wise questions. Now you need to concentrate on the kind of questions that were asked in the paper. This is the most useful part out here. Okay, we will do this chapter wise. Okay, at the end we will analyze how many questions were from current affairs and how many questions were asked from the static part, right? So first, talking about measurement of growth, national income and per capita income. So talking about 2 markers first. So a passage in the form of Syllabus was given about gross national income. So based on that passage, there were 3 questions that were asked, each 2 mark. Okay, so first one, very simple, who releases the estimates? So friends, you can see here the paragraph was about GNI, but they asked you who releases the estimate. So this is something of a basic knowledge that you have. It's a factual question. Okay, then how much is the GNI? Okay, now this is based on the daily reports that you get, maybe newspaper. It also finds mention in PIB. It may also find a mention in Economic Survey of India. Okay, so we would place this under this particular category. Then the third question that was based on this fill in the blank para was how per capita income is computed. Now you can see somewhat concept they have included here, right? So from the same paragraph, 3 different types of categories were asked. One is just a basic knowledge question. One is from the daily reports that you read, current affairs. The third one is a conceptual based question, right? Now friends, let us have a look at the one marker questions from this particular chapter. So you can see consumer goods are also referred to as what? So final goods are concept based questions, right? Of the first P in PPP, that is purchasing power parity, a very basic knowledge question, right? Macroeconomic theory does not involve what? Okay, so analysis of specific company, a concept based question. So GDP measures what? Okay, which side's perspective? So basically consumer perspective, again a concept based question. Okay, final of goods produced plus receivable from abroad, what is the answer for it? Okay, so it is national income, again a concept based question. Okay, GDP calculation does not include what? Again a concept based question. So friends, have a look at the kind of questions they're asking. Okay, very basic concepts. So when you're reading a particular chapter, if you're clear in your basic concepts, you would have easily answered 3 to 4 questions out of it, right? Next, moving on to the next chapter is monetary policy. So you can see here 2 marker question. So there was a passage which was given that was regarding IMF and RBI. Okay, that passage had 5 questions based on it. Okay, so there was a kind of a rate that was being referred to in the passage. So the first question they asked you was which rate is being referred to in the passage. Okay, the answer was repo rate. So now only if you know what is repo rate, okay, only if you have read about the concept of repo rate, you can answer this particular question. So you can see here, though that para is based upon a current affair, okay, or a daily news event, still you need to know the concept to answer that particular question out here, right? Then you can see the second question, the rate was increased to how much? Now this is a factual question. Okay, if you are keeping a tab, if you're updated with the daily happenings, you would be able to quickly spot on the answer for this. Okay, then comes your headline inflation rate, which is referred to in the passage as what? So it is CPI index. So now this is a basic knowledge that you have. Okay, so again you can see that a mix of all the 3 areas can be found here, your concept based, your daily updations, and a very basic knowledge that you have. Okay, then you can see which of the following can be the reason for the caution. Again here you're applying your understanding, so it is a concept based question. Okay, name the organization which releases this report. Answer was IMF. Again a very basic knowledge, a fact based question out here, right? Moving on to the 1 markers from monetary policy. So inflation theory, which combines both pull back and push back to explain the inflation. So it's a conceptual based question, friends. Next, coming to the fiscal policy chapter, the 2 marker questions, right? So there was a passage about FRBM, fiscal deficit, based on the budget speech. So you can see budget again important. So based upon this passage, there were 4 questions that were asked. Okay, one is the name of the committee head. It is NK Singh, a very fact-based question. Next was debt to GDP and operational parameter. Now these were important data points which were given as part of your fiscal policy document, which comes along with your budget. Okay, and then FRBM paves the way for. Again, you need to have a conceptual knowledge about this particular act to answer this particular question. Then fiscal deficit refers to what? Now, if you have read the chapter well, if you have understood the various kinds of deficit, you will be able to answer this particular question. So again, you can see that though they take up a paragraph which is so related to the current happenings, but still they include 1 or 2 questions which are not exactly related to the current happenings, but which are related to the background of that particular information out here, right? Next, friends, 1 markers from fiscal policy chapter. So which of the following is true about fiscal policy? Again, you need to have an understanding about fiscal policy, right? Dash is imposed for generating revenue and protecting domestic industries. It is tariff. Again, a conceptual question. The revised fiscal deficit target is 3.3% against the earlier target of 3%. So again, this is a fact-based question, okay, and this was a very prominent data point in the union budget. Okay, now friends, again have a look at these 3 questions. What can you infer? See, they are coming out with obviously more questions from current affairs, but still they're not leaving concepts behind. So you would find 1 or 2 questions again from each topic being asked under concept category, right? Next, moving to employment generation, friends. So here the 2 marker question. So there was a passage which was based on a particular scheme. So Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. Okay, and this particular scheme was launched in April 1999. But still, this particular scheme was asked because it is very important scheme when you talk about employment generation, right? So they asked you about the name of the scheme because obviously they would give you a paragraph which describes about the scheme, but they would not let out the name. And mostly the first question is asked regarding identifying the scheme which is talked about in the passage, right? Then you have what is true about the scheme, so you need to know the features about the scheme. Okay, then again features about the scheme specifically. Okay, so you can see that all the three questions were directly based on that particular scheme. So you can see that scheme again is a very important component when you talk about current affairs in ESI, right? Now friends, let us have a look at the industrial and labor policy. So you can see here 2-marker questions. So there was a passage about ease of doing business reform action plan. Okay, and you can see that based on this particular report, they had asked some 6 questions. Okay, so you can see that they asked about the state which was ranked last in this particular ranking index. Okay, the report's name, because obviously they would not immediately give you the report's name, they would just describe the characteristics of it. Okay, and then they would ask you the number of points in BRAP 372, DIPP collaboration with which institution. So again a background based question out here. Now feedback taken from, what are the stakeholders from whom the feedback is taken. So again you can see that this is a important question based upon that paragraph. Then you have objectives of SEZ Act. So this is a question that was asked, but we are not very clear about this particular question, but we have still gone ahead and included this here. Okay, now friends, you can see that though it is not directly related to industrial and labor policy, but it is one of the implementation, or you can see one of the actions that is taken to rank the states based on how easy it is to set up a business there. Okay, so directly or indirectly it is linked to the industrial and labor policy of India. So you can see that this was a very prominent news those days, and exactly 5 questions were picked up from this particular important news, right? Moving on to 1-marker questions. So allocation for infra in budget was how much? So that was a question they asked. So this is again important budgetary allocations that you need to note, right? So whenever you study the union budget, it is very important for us to know the budgetary allocations made for different sectors, right? Moving on to role of economic planning, friends. So 1-marker questions, if you see, impact of globalization on family, work, culture can be termed as what? So it is a concept based question regarding social globalization. The trade measures that are aimed at protecting the domestic sector refers to what? Okay, so it is talking about a term in trend, that is protectionism. Okay, so again if you're in the habit of keeping yourself updated, you would definitely be able to answer this particular question, right? Then moving on to poverty alleviation, 1-markers here. So proportion of people below poverty line is referred to as what? Okay, so again a concept based question. Okay, then poverty due to sudden health issue or calamity and temporary in nature, it is situational poverty. Again a concept based question, right? And the first state in India to have conducted comprehensive survey to ascertain the extent of multidimensional poverty in the state is which state? It is Andhra Pradesh, right? So here again you can see they have touched upon the background, they have touched upon important concept, and they have touched upon a recent happening related to that particular topic. Okay, I'm not really sure about the first question, so still we have included, so please do not take the answer as such, but just understand the kind of questions that are being asked in the paper. It is very important, guys, right? Moving on further, from sustainable development, 1-marker question, very simple. SDG targets are to be achieved by which year? So obviously you must be learning about this very frequently. So this is a very simple question picked out of it, right? Talking about regional economic cooperation, the first multilateral organization having its secretariat in India. Okay, now friends, you can see that these kind of questions are also like your GA questions. Okay, so like this particular question on regional economic cooperation are regarding ISA. So there is a very minute chance you may also get this question in GA. Okay, so these kind of questions also can be asked in your ESI section. Okay, talking about WTO, they have just asked a very simple question. TRIPS is monitored by which organization, right? Moving on further, international financial institution, 1-marker question, that institution which is established in 1945, it is IMF. So friends, when you start to read about this particular institution, we would obviously give you an introduction about it. So in that introduction, we will give you the establishment year. So this is one of a kind question that is asked in your paper, right? Now let us talk about others, like I call it miscellaneous, where I cannot exactly fit in the various categories we have seen. So like you have they've asked about budget allocation for Operation Green. Okay, now this Operation Green is a very important scheme under agriculture. Okay, and we do not have a specific mention about agriculture, but still this is an important announcement when it comes to union budget, right? So what is the key takeaway from this particular question is that you should read your union budget such that you're able to answer questions regarding all the important allocations made, right? Then there was further a question from budget only regarding the budget speech of finance minister, which stated that agricultural exports of India are dash against potential of 100 billion. So you can see how important is even the budget speech of our finance minister, right? Then they have asked about cumulative deduction in budget to salaried class. Straight away question from budget. Question about rural development scheme. Okay. Study of price impact due to change in price of other goods. This is a concept based question, cross elasticity, right? Now friends, coming to important questions under social issues that were asked. So when you talk about social sectors, as I told you, two chapters dominated the scene. One is your education and health. Okay, so there were two marker questions. So first, under education, there was a scheme that they had picked. Okay, it is about a scholarship scheme for NRI and overseas Indian. Okay, so this particular scheme had 5 questions under it. Like what were the questions? Like the first one, you can see a scheme does not cover which of the discipline. Okay, what is the scholarship portal which is brought out under the scheme, and the scheme name. So they would ask you to identify the scheme. As I always tell you, only they would talk about its general features in the paragraph given, and you need to find out which scheme is being discussed in the above mentioned paragraph, right? Then again, features of scheme were asked, total number of scholarships and that are reserved for ECR countries. Okay, so you can see when you take a particular scheme, you need to read it in such a way that all these pointers are answered, right friends? Talking about next particular question, it was again a 2 marker. Okay, you can see from the health topic. So there was a passage about JSSK scheme. Okay, and it is Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. So obviously you were asked to identify the scheme. So they asked hospitalization is for how many days for sick newborn children. So as trivial as information like this also would be asked. So sometimes we may skip this information. So don't do that, right? Diet provided for normal and C-section delivery for 3 and 7 days respectively. Again, you can see they've asked it in detail, in depth. Okay, the scheme was launched from which district in Haryana? So now friends, as I always tell you, whenever you see that a scheme is launched with a lot of fanfare, okay, so make sure you are aware from which district exactly is that scheme being launched, right? Moving on from social justice, also there was a 2 marker question, like a paragraph on which you had 5 questions, each carrying 2 marks. Okay, so this was about a scheme of grant and aid to voluntary and other organizations working for scheduled caste SC. So you can see obviously name of the scheme, which ministry, okay, eligibility criteria for the organization, okay, which is covered under the scheme. So again, the target segment also, regarding that you have a question. One question about the scheme objective. So friends, just infer what are the areas you need to cover when you are studying a particular scheme. See, you need to know first, identify the scheme, under which ministry, what is the allocation, what is the target segment, what is the eligibility criteria, if there are important parameters, okay, like this much amount is being given for these many households. So you need to know the amount exactly. You need to know the number of households which are targeted exactly. Plus, you also need to know the objectives of the scheme very clearly, right? Then talking about human development, friends. So 1 marker question, HDI is released an annual report of, so UNDP, very basic question. The first thing that you would know when you start reading human development chapter. Then you have urbanization and migration. So 1 marker question regarding the population that maximizes the country's growth and development. It's a conceptual question, optimal population. Then there is objective of the scheme Hidayah. So again, just an objective was asked under 1 marker, right? So friends, just a disclaimer here that one or two questions we were not able to pen down. So you might not get in the discussion exact number of questions, that is 65. Okay. So now coming to major insights. So this particular pie chart gives you a split up between static and current affairs. Okay. Now there are three components here. One is your conceptual based questions. Okay. One is your factual, that is very basic knowledge. Okay. And the third one is current affairs. So just think conceptual to be static. Okay, so we can place it that way. Okay, and your factual basic knowledge plus current affairs, we will club it together as current affairs. Okay, now friends, we usually get a lot of queries when it comes to ESI, that whether you need to give importance to current affairs, whether you need to give importance to static. Now friends, obviously when you see this data, you can very clearly see that if you talk about just concept based questions, there were 19 questions that were asked, and the remaining 34 plus 10 questions, okay, were from your current affairs part. Okay, so obviously the weightage which is given to current affairs is more, there is no doubt regarding it. But there is one important point that I need to stress down here is, unless and until you are thorough with your basics or your static portion, it is not very easy for you to remember all these current affairs related questions out here. Okay, and let me tell you that these 19 questions also that you see on your screens, which are from the conceptual part, these are actually very simple questions. Okay, so if you're thorough with the basic concepts, you can get 19 easy marks out of it. Okay, so why do we need to miss these 19 marks? Okay, then the moving further, you can see the marks split up. Okay, so in the previous pie chart, we were having a discussion about the number of questions. Here we can see about the marks. So 60 marks out of a total of 100 marks was from your current affairs. Yes, this is true. Yes, and 24 marks is from your static portion. Okay, and 16, as I say, you can have it under your factual or basic knowledge, so you can club together with 60 as well, and so totally 76 out of 100, and 24 is for your static portion. Okay, now again friends, let me tell you, these 24 marks were brownie points, very easy, right? So you need to be strong in your basics and keep yourself updated with the current affairs schemes, etc. Right? Okay friends, so what are the major insights or major takeaways? First of all, yes, current affairs part is given maximum weightage. Okay, but as I always pinpoint and tell you that without understanding theory, it is not easy to go towards your current affairs part, and retention of that current affairs part becomes a very big problem. Okay, so both these things should go hand in hand. Okay, now let me tell you that most of the current affairs questions had come from three important sources for ESI. So what are those your three sources? One is your daily newspaper like the Hindu or the Indian Express. Okay, there's this Economic Survey of India and Union Budget. So most of the questions are covered from these three sources, right? Further friends, we have seen the sources, but let me tell you or stress upon the areas that were asked in the current affairs section. Okay, so talking about the important areas, one is scheme. This stole the show. So basically you can see that 4 to 5 paragraphs are directly taken from schemes. Okay, be it a scheme from education sector, from your disadvantaged section, or from your health sector, right? So schemes played a major role there. Okay, then you had questions on budget announcements, allocations, important points from your budget like the finance minister's speech, right? So again you can say budget document is important, and these announcements are also important, right? Then major estimates, okay, like important rates like repo rates in the policy review, or deficit targets like in the budget document you have your fiscal deficit targets given. So all those things are very important. CSO releases periodic estimates, those are important for us. Important international institutions releases the predictions for growth rate of India, that is again important for us, right? Then the last part, various initiatives like any rankings that the government has come out with, any survey that it is doing, it is ranking the various states in India. So all these things also would find mention in your question paper. Right friends, now just to end here regarding one important point, that extrapolation is very important. Like whenever you're reading a particular topic, do not constrain or do not just limit yourself to the information that you see on your screens. Okay, there's a lot more to it. Go to the background of it. Okay, like in many of the questions you have seen, the paragraph is related to the current affairs, but the questions they have taken from the background. Okay, so always extrapolate whatever you're reading. That is very, very necessary, right? So friends, now coming to a very important point, the two things that are very precious when it comes to preparation is one is your time, right? And the other is your material, okay? So let me just tell you that when you have a look at these questions, you can also understand that you can easily go and search out in Google and get the answers for most of these questions, right? But do you have that much of time, or do you have that much of an understanding level, like which question is required for the examination, which information do I pick up on, which one do I leave, right? So all this requires a streamlined preparation, a well written material, along with something which you can finish it in a proper time, right? So friends, how is EduTab going to help you out? So let me just tell you that the two important things that we were talking about, one is the good quality material. Yes, we do provide it to you guys. It is very comprehensive, and we keep studying the previous year paper so that we include every possible section in our syllabus, right? And the next important thing is time. Obviously, we do not have that much of time in our hands to keep searching out in Google, or to keep getting 3 to 4 books and then filter down which is to be studied. So these two important aspects is taken care of when you talk about EduTap. So friends, I would like to end this lecture by just telling you one important thing, that I would advise you to never base your preparation solely on the previous year paper. So the main reason behind coming up with this analysis is to give you an idea regarding the type of questions that you get in the examination, right? It is not to tell you which topic is to be given priority always, or which is to be only read, which is to be left, right? Those things are not answered when you see the previous year paper, because there can be a chance that the section which dominated in a particular year might not even get a single question in the next year, right? So understand one thing, that whenever you're studying for any particular examination, when you're going through even a simple article, your mind should be tuned in such a way that you are able to filter out what you need to study and what you need to leave. Okay, so to make you capable of doing so, this analysis plays a very important role. So friends, with this we have ended this particular analysis. So till then friends, thank you so much and happy learning.